I think the biggest one is that they will magically get along, that they are going to be best friends, even if a lot of times people tell me, well, my dog actually doesn't like toddlers, has growled at toddlers, doesn't like little children. But then they still think that with their own child, the dog is going to just tolerate the climbing, the hitting, the hugging. What we don't know is when it's going to end, right? Like I always tell parents, like, do you really want to find out when your dog will stop being tolerant? There are many dogs who will at some point decide, I've had enough. Now, what can happen is, and it does happen, that they may decide the moment they're done, it's not going to be your child. It's going to be someone else's child.
Most people think that dog bites happen out of nowhere. 1 minute, everything is calm, and the next there's an incident. But is that actually true? Today, I'm speaking with Dominika, the founder of Dog Meets Baby, about why bites happen, how dogs and children misunderstand each other, and what families can do to prevent incidents before they even occur. This conversation is not about blaming parents, and it's not about labeling dogs as bad. It's about understanding behavior, recognizing stress signals, and feeling empowered rather than afraid. If you share your home with both dogs and children, or plan to, this episode could genuinely change how you see everyday interactions. Dominika, welcome to the Pause and Effect podcast. Let's start off first a little bit about your background.
Yeah.
How did you come to sort of this niche field?
I had children in 2016. I have twins, and I worked with families before, but then naturally I started working with families more. And my dog Lola, a yellow Labrador retriever, she had this scary predatory reaction to my children that I was not prepared for. And when it happened, it was very traumatizing, but I knew what to do. As a trainer, I had the tools, and even if I was not expecting this, I knew what to do. And then I started working with families more, and I realized while it's very rare, it happens to other people. Or a lot of times the dog is very anxious when the baby comes home, or the dog is aggressive towards the baby initially and barks and lunges. So
that I can set the tone for the listeners, I mean, I'm going to start with the big question. And
Yeah.
I think it's, important for us to, most people think that a dog bite comes out of nowhere. Is that actually true?
No. It's not true. Dogs warn.
Okay.
They communicate with subtle body language. That's the one that's quite easy to miss for many people. And there are many viral videos where what I see is a dog that's very uncomfortable, that's trying to communicate discomfort through, it could be the whites of the eyes are showing, or the lip licks, or nose licks, or yawning, ears back. So before it happens, before the dog decides to escalate, they usually warn. And that can be even for months or even for years. But sometimes it's not.
So the comment, didn't see it coming is really the fact that they were not looking.
Or they were not looking, or like before I was a trainer, I also didn't know much about dog body language. And now looking back, I can see what I missed. And a lot of times when I work with private clients, and I always ask them, could you share with me videos of your child and your dog before the bite? And then we look at the videos together, and that's when the parents often realize, wow, the dog was communicating all that time. They were showing discomfort in so many ways, but they saw it, they filmed it. They didn't know what they were looking at.
I suppose also, when they're in those moments, introducing a baby to a household, you are distracted. There's so much going on for you emotionally, chemically,
Yes.
Just physically. So I think the attention often goes to the child in the new environment, and probably some of these signs are missed, not necessarily because they didn't understand the behavior before, though, as you've mentioned, most people don't understand body language, but that also they just were not looking that direction.
True.
The focus is
Yes.
often then on the baby.
Yeah, and once your baby's mobile, and that's when a lot of times the bite happen to toddlers, then if you have them in the same space, you have to watch them like a hawk, and that's a lot of mental energy.
Absolutely. So what would you say is the biggest misunderstanding that parents have about dogs and babies?
I think the biggest one is that they will magically get along, that they're going to be best friends, even if a lot of times people tell me, well, my dog actually doesn't like toddlers, has growled at toddlers, doesn't like little children. But then they still think that with their own child, the dog is going to just tolerate the climbing, the hitting, the hugging, just love the baby.
I mean, you have dealt with some really heavy-going stuff. I mean, you have received messages from people in desperate situations.
Yeah.
Are you happy to share some of those experiences?
I would say with the newborns, it was the hard. It wasn't someone that I worked with. It was someone who messaged me while waiting in the waiting room at the hospital while the child was in the emergency surgery after the dog, it was a husky, bit the child. And the way the family introduced the child to the dog was by putting the car seat on the floor and letting the dog access the baby. There was no leash. They didn't see the child's face or the dog's face, and the dog just went in and bit the child. So that was very traumatizing. The other messages that I receive from parents is when the introduction doesn't go as planned. And it doesn't mean that the dog does something terrible, but it's not what the family was expecting. So maybe instead of being happy and excited, the dog is anxious or maybe growled or is very, very into the baby, tries to sniff and jumps up, and and then the parent is very unsure about this and cannot imagine having the dog in the bedroom at night where the dog used to sleep. And now the dog is kicked out, and then the dog is crying behind the closed door. The mom is crying in the bedroom. The baby's crying, and everybody's it's very heartbreaking, because if the dog was not prepared for this, and this happens the moment the baby comes home, then of course it's very hard to work when you just had a baby and you're hormonal and you don't feel well, and you're just trying to figure out how to be a parent.
Survival, isn't it, at that stage?
Yes, yeah, and then it's very hard, because there is not much you can do, because you don't have the time, you don't have the energy. Yeah.
People often assume that a dog is going to just simply walk away when they're uncomfortable in these situations. Why doesn't that happen?
If you think about it, like, why would they? If they were there first, a lot of times if the dog is on the couch, they've been on this couch for 10 years. That's their spot. Like, why should they move if they don't feel like moving? Like, this is their spot, and they choose to stay there. It could be because they want to be near the parent. They don't actually want to be near the child, but they really want to be near the parent. Some dogs they have a very hard time being separated, so they choose to stay near the parent and the child, because being away is more stressful. Some dogs, I call it fun police. They want to keep an eye on the child, because the child makes them so anxious that they just stay close to, and then a lot of times I see in the videos that they run up to the child and lick the child every time the child moves. Some of them muzzle punch or nip. It's just like they stay close, like just make sure that the child is under control.
It's like a supervision.
Like a supervision. Of course, there are, like I would say with herding breeds, it's more, but not necessarily. It can be different dogs too.
So what are some of the subtle signs that parents often miss before an actual bite occurs?
It's not that every dog will show the same signs. So it's knowing your dog and knowing what your dog shows. So I would say look at the dog's tongue. Do you see lip licks or nose licks when there's no food present? Do you see yawning when the dog is not tired? Do you see that the ears go back or the tail is tucked? Or sometimes it's literally this, moving, like looking away when and not making direct eye contact. Tight mouth, like tightly closed mouth is another one. You always want to look at the whole body language, not just one sign, because whites of the eye showing, that's a common sign. But my dog, she loves to do this, and then she just watches us. And yes, you see the whites of the eyes because she's moving her eyes while she watches us, but she's not upset. She just doesn't want to move. But if you look at her body language, she's relaxed. So you always want to look at the context, because it's going to be different if the dog is showing certain signs when their favorite person is petting them, because maybe accidentally they touched a sore spot and you see a lip lick. But the dog loves that person. And it's going to be very different if the dog is in a room full of toddlers and they all want to pet the doggy.
You look at me, I look at you, I see the love in your eyes. I'm lost.
Health you can see, love you can feel. Ultrapet, the science of love.
There are often people who go, and they may contact you because they are seeing these sort of signs and they're aware that there is an issue. But why is it that calm, quiet dogs are sometimes the ones who bite and those come as a surprise?
I mean, could be several reasons, but the one that comes to mind is if you punish growling, and sometimes people do because they heard, like if the dog growls, like you should correct them. And so if you punish those signs like showing teeth or growling, you're not teaching the dog anything. You're just removing the louder warning. And then the dogs are quietly upset. They're still upset, but they don't show it. And this is when it may appear like the dog is fine and they're tolerating and they're just okay, while inside the dog is not okay. And that's when you might feel, oh, this bite came out of nowhere because this dog was so calm. As a trainer, I like when the dog communicates because that's where I can interpret this. The moment the dog freezes, that really freaks me out because a lot of times when the dog freezes, the next reaction is a bite. They're not going to like shake off and walk away. But if the trigger is still there, let's say if the child is still trying to kiss the doggy and pet the doggy and hug the doggy while the dog is frozen, you will see that moment when the dog is frozen and then there is the snap.
Wow. And what situations inside the home are really of higher risk?
The food. Having food on the floor where it used to be before the baby, because many dogs are protective of their resources. And even if they are not, they might become protective of their resources because, yes, I know that the child is not going to eat the kibble, even if many will try. So I would remove it for that reason because it's a choking hazard. But a lot of times when the child gets closer to the dog's food and plays with it, and it keeps happening, you could actually trigger the resource guarding, and the dog might have a reaction. So I always tell parents, I don't care if your dog is protective of food or not. We're not testing it. Have a plan where, like, if you feed your dog, your child cannot be around them.
And what is your approach to advising parents about beds and toys that are obviously another resource for these pets?
Well, if you're many toddlers, and I have to say I have a picture of my children trying to get on Lola's bed while she's sitting there, and you can tell in her face help. That's basically what she was asking for. And I know that many people post videos or pictures of their dogs and children cuddled up on the dog bed, and sometimes more than cuddled up, like the child is on top of the dog, which, is not what I would recommend. It's their space, right? Like they shouldn't be bothered. It's much, teach your child that this is, I call it that dogs, when they rest, they are in bubbles, and we don't want to pop their bubbles because the bubbles keep them safe. So anytime they're on their dog bed, that's their property. And if your child keeps doing this, it means you have to move the dog bed somewhere else or move the child somewhere else. Like, if you keep catching your child right before they get on the dog bed and you keep raising your voice, you're also going to create a problem, because the dog is like, I was suspicious about that baby, but now I see that mom is really worried. She keeps raising her voice every time the child gets closer. That's how you can create a reaction in a dog. So it's not like, remove it. Like, you have to have a plan. Once you have a mobile baby, once they're older, you can bring it back once the child understands that we do not do it, or once the dog is very comfortable with like, my children are 10. Yes, they can get on Hella's bed and she doesn't mind it. It's very different than a 2-year-old.
Yeah, because hopefully at that point as well, you have taught them the kind of body language to read,
yes,
so that they're also aware of it.
Yes, it's very different. Yes, but I also, with younger children, if you allow it with your dog, and then you will go to your friend's house or grandparents' house, and there is a dog who is very protective of the dog bed, of their resources, and the child at your house is allowed to do it because your dog is very tolerant, it may not end up well, because the child now doesn't know that this is a boundary that they shouldn't cross, right? Like, they don't understand that this is a safety issue with other dogs. So, like, that's another reason why I tell parents, like, you have to have certain rules for your dog, because your child also will see other dogs in life. And, if you let this with your dog, who's so tolerant and maybe doesn't have teeth and is 15 years old, and you're like, nothing is going to happen. Yes, but your child will then see your friend's dog and will try to hug a 1-year-old, 100-pound dog that doesn't like being touched.
That's so true. I mean, you talk about safe supervision. What does safe supervision actually mean in practical terms?
Well, it's you knowing what you're looking at, basically. So if you're looking at your child approaching the dog and giving the doggy kisses, and you're like, oh, this is so cute, they love each other, they're best friends, while the dog is cool, like, that's far from biting, that's not safe supervision. The first step is it's not an option not to understand. When you have a child and a dog, it's not an option not to understand what you're looking at, because you will put your child in unsafe situations.
So when you know that you have a dog that is at a high risk, or you are trying to teach your children those boundaries, what are the practical steps you need to take to then sort of mitigate that risk? Let's talk in the household. Is it a case of removing the dog during times, particularly when your children are mobile? I know that a lot of parents supervise, for example, from the kitchen and allow their children to roam around, and obviously the dogs are on the floor.
Yes, I would say it really depends on the age of the child. So with younger children, management is best because they're just young, and expecting them to follow instructions reliably is just not realistic. They're developmentally not there. So, like, I'm not a child psychologist, but I work with psychologists, and they all say the same thing. Like, you cannot expect a 15-month-old to reliably understand not to approach a dog on the dog bed. They will do it. So management is the best. Once you have older children, like, let's say 4 and up, but it's very individual. Some, 3-year-olds are going to be not interested in the dog. That's also another thing. Some children are very interested in dogs, and they just, even if sometimes when you do everything right, they still want to see what the doggy is doing. And some children, they are not interested in dogs. They just kind of coexist. And then it's, of course, much easier, because if your child is just like, yeah, there is Fido, but I don't really want to hang out with Fido, I don't really care about the dog, then your life is much easier.
So talk to us about what is actually happening from the dog's perspective during face-to-face interactions with toddlers.
I mean, we would need to ask the dog, right? To really know for sure. But if you think about the crawling babies, right? Let's start with the crawling babies. And I have this perfect video where the child just crawled up crawled towards the dog for the first time. And you can see pure shock in this dog's face. First of all, the dogs, they don't get a memo that this child will be moving, right? So they kind of live with this immobile baby that's rolling and sitting up, but that's it, right? They're kind of there. And then one day they move. A lot of times in the direction of the dog. So there was this big face, those adorable big eyes coming at you. And that's very scary to many dogs, because they're like, what's happening? What? And you a lot of times what you see is that the dogs will play bow, because that's the reaction they will, if there's another dog coming at them, they might be like, oh, let's play. And then, of course, the child doesn't play bow back. So you can see that they do it again. Nothing happens. And then you see more and more confusion. Some of them will run around, zoomies. Again, this is they're not really sure what's happening. So this is them being very confused. Some of them jump up and run away. And first they look, and then they're okay, off I go. And occasionally, some dogs will growl when they first see the child moving in their direction, because they are something that was not moving is moving. That's scary.
Very much so. I can imagine from their perspective. It can be quite intimidating.
And then, there's so many milestones, right? Once they start crawling, it's just pulling up to standing, and then it's the wobbly walking and the cruising and all of that. So it's just, some dogs have a really hard time the moment they start moving. Some dogs have an easier time when they start walking, because they're like, oh, you're a human. Small, but you walk like my mom and dad, and that's easier for some, but for some it's not.
Mm. And we see this a lot. I'm sure you experience this, but we even see it in interactions in the consult room with owners forcing interactions, even with good intentions. Why does this increase the risk?
If you come to the vet and many dogs already are stressed there, then I'm not ideal. So when my children were younger, sometimes people were stopping us and they were like, oh, do you want to say hi to my dog? And then a lot of times that dog was just ears back and hiding and definitely not approaching, right? The parent was like, oh, my dog loves children. And because I taught my children what to look at, my 3-year-old daughter would be like, your doggy doesn't want to say hi. Your doggy's scared. And then, no, she loves children. And then my daughter is like, no, the tail is tucked. In her body language, the ears are back. No, doggy says no.
Incredible.
And it's just, right, so it's just something where there's a lot of this, I always tell my children and other parents, yes, it's a good approach to ask if my child can pet the dog, right? It's better to ask than not to ask. But the next step should be ask the dog. Look at the dog's body language. If this dog is not, some dogs will approach you, right? Like a yellow lab, happy, loose body. They want to lick you. The butt is moving. The whole body is moving. They're just so happy. That is a happy doggy that wants to say hi. Now, if this dog is staying by the owner and hiding there and absolutely not moving, you should not approach. Whether you're a child or an adult, don't go there, because this dog is communicating, I don't want to say hi.
And what are the most common things that you find parents are unintentionally doing that increases this risk?
I mean, when they insist on, let's pet the doggy, right? Or when they insist on, I have this one video where it's like, give the doggy a kiss.
It's like hugging. So what happens from, again, I know that you're not a dog, but what is happening when people are insisting on either that kiss or a hug? We often see the images of pets, receiving a hug from a toddler.
Well, a hug is a restraint to a dog, right? It's like if I filmed myself, and I filmed myself with my dog Lola, and if you looked at her body language, she was not loving it. She was a little bit tense. Sometimes she was lip licking. Yes, I was her mom, so she was tolerating it. I wasn't like I knew she's not going to do anything, and I wasn't doing it all the time. But even with me, that was uncomfortable to her. And if people film themselves with their dogs while they hug them, I'm pretty sure many people would have a similar reaction, like a similar video. If the dog is not consenting to you hugging them or kissing them, and it keeps happening, then at some point, this dog might be done and might reach a point when I've been lip licking, I've been yawning, I'm tense, I'm looking away, I'm not approaching, and then one day they might growl or snap. Now here's the risk. If they do it, usually not the first time, usually it's like the second or the third time, depends on the dog, and they discover that this is what keeps them safe and this is how they keep themselves safe, and people stop approaching, they will likely stop communicating with that. So going back to your question at the beginning of our conversation, this is sometimes when they also stop communicating the subtle signs of stress, because it's so much more effective to nip or to air snap. And once you're there, not great.
And where does social media contribute to unrealistic or unsafe expectations?
It could be two things. It could be that their dog is actually pretty okay with the child, and maybe the interactions are not that physical, and it's actually fairly cute. But there is a little bit of what I wouldn't do, but not as much, right? So there can be this. I'm thinking about one influencer who, like, gray area, but I would be still okay with a lot of it. And then there are parents who absolutely have no clue what they're looking at, and they post it with the soundtrack is always like, this is like like you want to cry when you hear it, and the caption is BFFs, they love each other, yes, like that sort of thing. And many people who don't know what they're looking at, they're like, oh, this is so cute. They're like cuddled up on the dog bed, and oh, this is such a great picture, and they copy it.
Scary. So the thing that I know you feel very strongly about, and I definitely want your perspective on, a bit like the hugging or the kissing, is that image or that video of kids climbing on dogs or riding dogs.
Yeah.
Why is allowing climbing on dogs so risky, even if the dog appears tolerant?
Well, I mean, you as a vet can tell more, like the risks to the dog's body, right? Like what can, like there can be an injury, like yes, if it's a huge dog, maybe not, but many of them are, they can be on the smaller side, and the child is growing, so it keeps happening. At some point, the child will be too heavy, and a dog is not a horse, and if you, I mean, I never really understand what the point is of this, because why would you even allow it? Like, what are you teaching your child? That it's okay to climb on dogs, and then they will climb on a different dog? And then another one is that, what if this dog like abruptly stands up, or like there's a doorbell and like the doorbell is a trigger and they just like jump up, and then the child falls and I don't know, like has a head injury. It's just not it's not like the things where parents allow to put stickers on the dogs. I hate this. Or where you like dress up the dog. I hate that too. So there are certain things that, you know, these are animals and they deserve our respect, and teaching the children to, like, if you want your child to sit on something, like, you know, go to the playground, sign up for a pony club, like, you know, like there are many other alternatives, right? Like, don't use your dog for that. It's just not good parenting. I'm sorry to say that, but it's not.
I agree. I totally agree. I think I really want to understand this, because I think a lot of dogs, like as you mentioned, are or appear to be tolerant. Mm-hmm. But why is tolerance not the same as enjoyment?
What we don't know is when it's going to end, right? Like I always tell parents, like, do you really want to find out when your dog will stop being tolerant? Because I don't want to. Like, to me, this is not like... Some dogs, there are dogs that will growl for years and they will die growling and nothing will happen. It's possible. But there are many dogs who will at some point decide, I've had enough. Now, what can happen is, and it does happen, that they may decide the moment they're done, it's not going to be your child. It's going to be someone else's child. And then I worked with dogs that were labeled that it was court mandated training sessions where the parents lost the dog temporarily. They lost the friendships because the child bit their friend's dog. They had to pay money for the child's surgery. It can happen if the dog is just tolerant and doesn't enjoy the interaction. It can. And we don't know when and who's going to be on the receiving end.
It's just too high risk. I mean,
and exactly. And we also don't know, like, not everyone knows the dog's bite inhibition, right? Like, I got my dog Lola when she was 8 months old. Like, I didn't know if she had good bite inhibition or not. You kind of have an idea once, you live with the dog, but you don't truly know. Now, my second dog, Hella, I got her when she was a puppy. She was 10 weeks old. We worked on the bite inhibition a lot. So I know that she has good bite inhibition. But many people have rescue dogs and you don't know.
So there's a lot of work that you do, and fortunately you have a lot of resources, and we'll talk about those at some point in our conversation. But what should parents focus on before even bringing the baby home? So if they are anticipating whether they maybe have a particular breed of dog, and I hope we'll touch on that too, but they maybe have a breed of dog that is slightly high risk, or they have a dog that's shown some other behavioral concerns and they're aware that this may now be a problem. What are the steps that parents or expectant parents should take before bringing that baby home?
Yeah. So it's, there was like this general baby prep training where you introduce the dog to the baby sounds, like the newborn sounds, different sounds. Then you introduce the dog to the baby equipment, whether it's the stroller or the swing. You don't want to put the baby in a swing. And this is the first time the dog sees the swing and the baby, right? Like, so you want to do it separately, because some dogs might have a reaction to a moving object that also has some music, or mobiles that move, right? Like, some dogs will try to grab them. So you want to do this first. And number one is, I always tell parents, have a plan for the sleeping arrangements. If right now your dog sleeps with you in your bed and the child will be in the same bedroom and the dog will be able to access the crib or the bassinet at night when you are asleep and not supervising, that's not safe. And if anything happens, there is any reaction from the dog that will make you nervous, then I can guarantee you, as a new mom or new dad, you might decide, I don't want this dog in the bed. And then once you kick the dog out the day the child arrives, it's going to be very traumatizing for the dog. So it's good to have a plan for that. Then it's teaching the dog that maybe certain areas are off limits, like the nursery. You always can invite the dog to the nursery. You can put their dog bed there, but it's good to teach them before the baby arrives that this is a place where you come by invitation only, or you're not allowed. So you don't, like some children have eczema or they have allergies, and then your pediatrician will tell you, no dog, please no dog in the nursery until we figure it out, right? And then you're like, oh, I have never practiced this, and my dog was always allowed in this room, right? So like make your life easier by preparing your dog for those situations. If your dog has behavioral issues that might affect the life with the baby later, then it's also good to start working on this. But I don't want parents to feel like, oh, the training has to be done, like the day before the baby arrives. No, you can continue working on separation anxiety and other behaviors. And there are certain, like, if your dog is a resource guarder, you're not going to work with your child on this anyway. So have a good management plan. So just thinking, like, I have a free preparation checklist that covers all this. It's more like for parents to look at this, there will be many things that they can check off already. And then there are some things where they can be like, oh, okay, yes, we will be having the child and the dog in the car. Right now, the dog is loose. I don't really want my 60-pound dog loose next to a 6-pound baby. That doesn't make me really comfortable. Plus, it's a projectile, right? Like it's a risk. So we need a plan for the dog. Maybe let's get a harness, or let's get a crate, or let's have a plan.
Excellent. And what kind of preparation do people totally overcomplicate or focus on unnecessarily?
Like, you don't need to practice with a doll. If you don't want to have a doll, like, you can wrap up a small pillow or something like a water bottle in a baby blanket and just use this. The training is more important. So like teaching your dog while you hold this fake baby to go to bed, and then you will discover, oh, actually, I cannot really point. Like, I have to teach my dog to pay attention to the voice command or to my elbow, right? So this is more important. So it's not like you have to have a doll to train your dog. And for some dogs, the doll is actually a distraction. All they want is to grab this doll, and then you're scared what might happen. So I think that's the one. And then the other one is that parents really think that the dog has to smell the baby head or the baby blanket or the onesie from the hospital. And sometimes it's very complicated to do it. So if it's easy, do it. But one introduction to a baby item this item has many other smells on it, it's not going to make a difference. So you don't have to feel bad if you skip it or if you don't do it.
And what kind of regrets do you hear most from families who don't prepare early enough?
I mean, it's a variety of things. It could be from, I wish I practiced stroller walks with the dog. Like, I taught my dog to walk next to a stroller, because right now exercising the dog is really hard because my dog cannot, I have to walk them separately. It could be not teaching the dog to be comfortable by themselves. So moving the dog out of the bedroom, or if you have a playpen, teaching the dog to stay outside the playpen. A lot of times it's the barking. That's also, which is not, it's not really, this one doesn't affect the babies as much because they hear the barking when they're in the womb, but a lot of times it affects the parents when you are sleep deprived and you have the sensory overload, and then your dog is barking. That's what really triggers you. So this is the one that many parents struggle with: barking, shedding, which again, invest in a vacuum cleaner. I know we don't, like if it's a one that, like a robot vacuum cleaner, so you don't have to spend time vacuuming. So there are certain things that I'm a big fan of management and using tools. So if your dog barks at whatever is walking outside, and you can put a window film that will reduce it by 90%, do it. You don't have to right now like hire a trainer and work on this. Well, you don't really have time, and maybe not even like it's not in your budget. So just like simple things, white noise machine, put a white noise machine next to your dog's dog bed or the room they're in or the crate, so they don't hear the crying baby as much. Put the white noise machine by the front door so they cannot hear noises coming from the outside, or by the nursery. So just like use things that will make your life easier.
Can we go back to dogs in the bedroom?
Yeah.
Because you made mention, obviously, of the fact that I don't think a lot of parents anticipate what's going to happen, and then potentially having to separate them and them crying on the other side of the door, and how distressing that is, and the reality of then having to have them in the room. Is co-sleeping with dogs and babies ever safe?
No. I'm not going to like even go there. Like, and I work with a sleep consultant, and like several. I was on their podcast too, and they said the same thing. No. I mean, it could be on one-on-one case basis that there can be an exception, but I work with it wasn't even a client, it was a message. And she said that she put the baby accidentally on the sleeping dog, and the dog snapped by being startled. It was dark in the room, right? Like the dog was half asleep or asleep. It's just not like, I wouldn't do it.
So, I mean, not only sort of certain facts or risk factors, it's just any sleeping dog either being approached or being startled is a risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Once your child is older, that's different, right? Like it's not, like I wouldn't be worried about a 10-year-old, and, and especially if they've lived with this dog for a really long time and I know this dog, it's very different. But a newborn and a dog in the same bed, no.
What misconceptions about dogs and children generally frustrates you the most?
I think the one that they should love each other, like, that the dog should like dogs magically love the children and they just should put up with everything. There is a lot. So sometimes parents share that they hear it a lot from the older generation. Oh, you always climbed on the dog, or you were always like sleeping together and nothing happened. Oh, you were like drinking out of the same bowl and nothing happened, right? Like this I think it's called survivor bias. Like it's just like where just because your child was fine, it doesn't mean that was a safe setup. So that's something that I know that many parents, the younger generation, they struggle with, because there is, or just not being taken seriously. I think that's another one where, like you have certain rules and you're like, well, I do not let my child say hi to dogs that we don't know. And people then say, oh, you're exaggerating. Like, what can happen? Like, they like let them play or let them hug or let them kiss. Well, like, this is not, it's not safe, and that this is your role. And it's hard because then sometimes you have to push against your family members or your friends who don't have those roles.
You're seen as sort of extreme or paranoid.
Yes, and then you're labeled, and then, like sometimes people like vent to me, and I was like, no, you are not cruel for, because they might hear like, oh, you're cruel for keeping the child and the dog set, like, having a gate. Like, why is there a gate? Like, can they not be together? And you're like, well, the gate is there, so, the dog is relaxed and safe, and the child is safe. And then, oh, you're cruel for creating the dog, or, for keeping the dog away. And yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. And tell me, what moment recently or in the past has convinced you that the work that you're doing is really necessary?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm very fortunate that I get a lot of feedback from whether it's the followers or the private clients or people who take courses. And I think that the ones that touch me the most is when they say that if it wasn't for the account or for the course or for the consultation, they would have rehomed the dog. Like there was like, they like, that's it, right? Like they didn't see, they thought that's it, that's over. Or some of them, like they were so scared of having a child, and really postponing and not wanting to have a child because it will affect the dog's life. But then they were like, okay, I'm going to prepare the dog, I'm going to have the baby, and then if it like all goes well, everybody's like, oh, I'm so relieved and so happy that my dog is still part of the family.
Absolutely, to be able to overcome that and make it work, because obviously, especially in desperate times, as you say, you often find people in these situations where they're in sort of crisis mode, so not necessarily as rational as when you are preempting it. And before we wrap up, I obviously want people to be able to learn about Dog Meets Baby or be able to access your resources. Where can they find you? Where are your resources?
So the website is dogmeetsbaby.expert. And I'm also on Instagram, dogmeets_baby, and on YouTube. So there are if you go to my website, all the links are there. I publish a book for children called Lola and the Bubble Mission.
Well done.
But we have many free resources. I have many checklists for people who are expecting a child, for parents of toddlers and parents or caregivers or of older children too. There's a lot.
And finally, what is the one message you hope every parent listening today takes away from this conversation?
Oh, I don't know. I hope, I would love for parents to know that having a dog and a child together is, while it's work, right, and it's good to be prepared and know the body language, it's very fulfilling. It's just it's such the bond that they have with the dog is just, and especially once they start creating their bond, like with your dog, and that you are not part of it anymore, and they have this like relationship that is so touching. So it's just like my daughter told me recently, Mom, I don't think I could ever live without a dog. Right? She's like, I cannot imagine a life without a dog. Like I cannot imagine coming home and not having a dog. It's such a big part of our life that it just teaches children the responsibility and empathy and with older dogs, caring for them. So it's and there are many benefits like in terms of health too, right? Like with allergies, and it's just such a great companion. So it is work. It's good to be prepared, but it's worth it.
Oh, no, I totally agree. I would encourage everybody to try. Obviously, we haven't touched on it, and I don't want to miss the opportunity. In terms of people who are going, I don't yet have a dog, and we know that situation is quite rare, but they don't have a dog, and they want to get a dog knowing that they're going to have a family. When it comes to breed selection or animal selection, what should parents be or prospective parents be looking for?
Well, it's, it depends on if this is like the first time dog owner, or if they had dogs in the past and they're quite experienced, but they don't have one right now. So, I would choose easier breeds if you never had a dog, right? Like don't go for like a working line German Shepherd if that's your first dog, because that's going to be a lot if this is your first dog. I don't, to me it's it would be probably more like the dog has to match your lifestyle. If you travel a lot, then, are you going to travel with the dog, without the dog? Like, maybe it's better to choose a smaller dog than like a large dog that cannot travel with it. So if the shedding drives you nuts, and then maybe choose a dog that doesn't shed. The allergies also are, play a role. I think the one that I would pay attention to is the barking, though. I think I would, if you know that you are prone to sensory overload with children, there is a lot of sensory overload. Do not choose a dog that barks, like the breed that is known for alert barking. So yeah, just do your research, but also. Like, my first dog, Lola, was a rescue, and our next dog will be a rescue, and there are many great rescues. So it's important that when you choose a dog, you train the dog.
Great advice at the end. Dominika, thank you so much for the work that you do. I think it's really valuable, so helpful for families who feel informed rather than fearful or going into this totally unprepared. I obviously encourage the listeners, and we'll put all your details and contacts in the notes. But it's been a really informative discussion, and I've learned a lot from it, certainly. So I hope my listeners do too. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and great questions. I love them.
Great. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode on the Pause and Effect podcast. If you found the discussion helpful, please like, share, and follow our podcasts. Don't forget to leave us a comment or review. We love hearing from our listeners. Remember, you can listen to us on your preferred podcast platform. Welcome back to Just for Pets. You're with Dr. Carra.
Hi, Doc. It's Justin the Jack Rossi here, and boy am I itchy.
Are you on a hypoallergenic diet?
Hyper what now?
Changing to a special diet will really help. And Just for Pets have a massive range. And flea and tick medication, special shampoo.
Ooh, how quick can you get some?
Order today and we'll deliver pronto.
I feel better already.
Justforpets.co.za. Vet approved, pet adored. Gets it all to your door.